Welcome to Networking Unleashed Building Profitable Connections, the show where networking goes beyond business cards and handshakes to explore the relationships that shape our lives, our leadership, and our legacy. I'm your host, Michael Forman. Today we're talking about something that's often missing from conversations about success, the person behind the success. In a world where social media highlights victories and AI can manufacture polished perfection, it's easy to believe everyone else has it figured out. But behind every entrepreneur, creator, and leader is a journey that's usually filled with setbacks, uncertainty, growth, and moments that quietly redefine who they are. My guest today is a young entrepreneur whose podcast became much more than a platform. It became a classroom for life. Through meaningful conversations, personal adversity, and an honest look at mental health, he's discovered that some of the most valuable lessons don't come from success. They come from the people that we meet, the challenges we face, and the courage to keep moving forward. This isn't just a conversation about podcasting. It's about resilience, it's about authenticity, it's about relationships that carry us through the hardest seasons. If you've ever questioned your path, struggled in silence, or wondered how your greatest challenges might become your greatest source of purpose, this episode is for you. I'd like to welcome to the podcast Brendan Brown. Listen, he has done it all. You would think at such a young age he's missing something, but he really has gotten to the grassroots of things. Brendan, why don't first of all, welcome to the podcast,
Thank you.
and why don't you give us a little, let's say, cliff notes of how you got where you are today?
How I got where I am today is first of all my faith. I am a believer of Christ, and it starts from there, the foundation. And as it went by, I've been through different events when I was younger that kind of shaped me into who I became. That was very, I would say, traumatic in a way, with verbal and emotional, and it led me to be resilient in what I'm doing. And by me watching YouTube, educating myself, creating and self teaching myself with different skills, I evolved to where I am today. And that's just how I got to where I got to from a generalization standpoint. But if you want to go more in depth, just let me know.
Okay. I got a couple of questions for you, so sit back, relax, and just give me your best answers. You've shared your journey very openly. Looking back, how have your greatest struggles changed the way you build relationships with people?
How my biggest struggles changed the way I have relationships with people.
How you build relationships with people?
Being authentic and sharing what you relate with them. Because recently, with a brother I was speaking to yesterday, and this is on my faith. Like I said, not trying to promote my faith to nobody, force anything. This is me. I was talking to a brother in Christ yesterday, and he was telling me about how he was dealing with some fake people. And he was like, it's just something how there's so much people in this world that can have this fake light to say they love God, and then they don't really show the compassion or acts of it. And I told him I had that experience. And he said at the end, as we talked, he thanked God that I talked with him because he said, I really appreciate this man. I really felt trusted by it. I'm not trusted, respected by what you were saying. You understand me, you feel me. And I say it's because it's the experience. And I thank God because a lot of things I've been through, no young man should have been through, having to provide for a parent through allowance money from other relatives, having to grow up with a father not really being there the way he had to be there. When as he got older, he got better, but it still wasn't as good at that time before he had changed what he did. Having relatives that didn't understand my perspective was a lot, but I stayed rooted. I stayed strong in my faith and in my God. And that's what connects me with so much people is that they love the fact that I'm just rooted in what I'm doing. Even if they're not a believer of Christ, they still respect the fact that I have the attributes of it. And I'm not perfect, but I continue to just try my best to just show that love and authenticity to people because the main thing is I have to feel how they feel. Because think about it, like how earlier today I was at the restaurant. I told my grandmother, I said, we have to always remember that people, if we step in their shoes, we'll know how they feel. And we sometimes have to reflect and just think about what they are. Because if even as simple as a waiter coming by, they're doing their job. But if you really take time with them and talk with them, because some of them gonna have a rough day, and you talk with them, they'll say, "Wow, he took or she took time with me to talk, and I love that. How's your day been going? My day's been going great. Where you from? I'm from XYZ. You going to college or you another job? Yeah. And you build relationships, you build it. So that's how I have my biggest struggles to relate with people by just knowing that whatever weakness you're going through right now, I need to find a way to either relate with it with you or see where I lived that could relate to you because everyone's circumstance is different, but you can at least relate, and we all can with struggle. So
That, that's true. My mother always said everything happens for a reason. And it's true that it does. And you were placed in that situation for that person, right? You were there at the right time, at the right place. You gave him the answers that he was kind of looking for. So I understand that. And that's building the relationship with the person. And you brought up having a waiter because I'm a firm believer that you treat the janitor as well as the CEO because you never know. First of all, you never know who he is or what he went through to get where he is today. So you have to give respect to everyone. And like you said, the phonies, the people who put the facade on, and you can tell them in business because they're always like, "Hey, how you doing?" And that's that fake smile. And when they go away from you, and when they get in the car or go home, they're a completely different person, and that's not the person you want to hang out with. All right, but anyway, I digress. I can go on this for all day.
yeah, likewise.
Podcasting introduced you to people from all walks of life. What's one lesson about human connection that surprised you the most?
One thing that surprised me about human connection the most is just how people can really think creatively. How when you go in this social network of the internet, podcasting, whatever industry you're in, it's interesting to see how there's so much different gifted people in whatever field you're going for. A prime example is you see in basketball how one player comes in, you see another one with this personality come in, they do their part. And for me personally, it's surprising just to see, like I said, once again, the creativity, how vast a person's mind is with podcasting. And then as it went from podcasting, social media, and etc.
It's so true, and I have I don't know just under 200 podcasts published already, and I see it from different countries, Australia, Germany, Switzerland, Europe, all these, but everybody has that same common, they want to see you do better. And I want to see them do better. And this whole podcast is about how you network with people and get to the root of what their problems are so you can help them. And I go into a networking event with what's called a servant's heart. I go in expecting to help people instead of what they can do for me. So it's a very big difference. We often celebrate success publicly, but struggle privately. How has being honest about your mental health changed the quality of your relationships?
When I released the memoir, because the warm up was the podcast. At that time, I was going through a lot, just recovering from just so much chaos at that time that the pandemic had happened. And I started recording. And eventually, when relatives didn't understand my perspective, I just started venting on it, venting about different things, venting about what they may have done and how it inspired me to be strong in what I do. And I sometimes use those stories to inspire other people. And they would look at it as an okay, it's inspiring me. And not all about okay, it's gossiping. But of course to my relatives they thought it was. And then when the memoir came out, that was a big whole issue. because everybody was like, oh, wow, wow. But the people outside my relative space were like, that makes sense. That's understandable. And as time went on, even right now, as it's recording, it's gotten better. They understand where I'm coming from. They may not understand fully my entrepreneurial drive, but they do understand at least a concept of what I'm doing. They understand that I'm a unique person. I'm a one percenter in the mindset wise. And hopefully I answer your question, but to finally put the nail in the coffin, this answer is that it made it better and it made me more stronger because it started out feeling hurtful, but it ended up being stronger. Even now, if I do deal with the hurt, the pain, I just continue to go up no matter what happens. Take the practical steps, discern and listen to what's right, discern and listen to what's wrong, and kick that out and don't even let that come in. And that's it.
Okay. Do you think people are craving authenticity more than expertise today? And if you do, why?
Okay. I believe people are loving more authenticity than expertise today because of the fact that people want real stories now. I was in the self improvement space because I started doing this since 2021 podcasting, and a lot of people started just stop watching it after certain creators started getting exposed for having these gurus and different things in business. People started realizing, a lot of young people my age too realized that starting a business is hard, starting this is hard, starting this is hard because of the fact that number one, it was oversaturated. Number two, some people were not taking the initiative to do it, starting businesses. But number three, it just was too much going on. And there were people who were just literally really scamming people who really worked hard for what they did or didn't work hard and they still took their money. And now people just really want realism. And especially now with AI, it boosted that because there's so much AI slops, because that's a whole nother conversation, but I'm not gonna get into that. There's AI slop and there's real AI work that I believe can be really creative. And the people who are doing the bad, of course, is covering all the good. And people want that real authenticity. And so when we're having a podcast like this, a real talk, this is becoming more valuable because at one point it was oversaturated too, because every celebrity was trying to do podcasting before it was a small thing. But
Right.
now with authenticity, people may want to hear a podcast again, especially if it's a well-known person. And that's just why I believe authenticity is even more important than expertise. And I would want to add into your question here, they can combine too. But I know you didn't ask that.
Okay. Okay. Authenticity is a buzzword that has been thrown around so much that it almost has lost its meaning. But if you can substitute authenticity with being yourself, being real, that is what is lacking in today's, whether it's podcasting or anything else, especially with AI. AI, it's very easy to put a prompt in, have a polished letter come out, but it doesn't sound like you. AI doesn't have the emotion that you and I have, right?
Mhm.
And when we put the emotion into our writing, then all of a sudden it's, whoa, hey, this is so much better than AI. But AI is a starting point. If that's
Mhm.
all, you have to put five, six, seven prompts into AI before you get a true answer. And you have to look at that. But I'm more into the person to person networking meeting. Zoom is great because wherever you're calling from, wherever I'm calling from, all of a sudden we came together, which is fabulous. But I also believe the networking, the one on one, the one I walk into a networking event where there's 300 people, we're human beings. We need that human touch. And we'll go so much further with that. Okay. Many people see networking as collecting contacts. Do you believe it's actually about creating spaces where people feel enough to be themselves?
That's what it should be. Yeah, I agree with that. It should be there.
It absolutely should be. We went beyond collecting contact. I used the pandemic as a line in the sand. Pre-pandemic, we collected contacts and we built our mailing list. Post pandemic, we create relationships and we collect relationships. And that's what I see is the biggest difference. All right. As someone in your 20s, what do you think your generation understands about relationships that older generations sometimes overlook? Be careful.
I would, I get your joke there. I get your reference there. I was like, hold on, wait, what's the joke? And I'm like, I got, but what I
Okay.
think is one thing that we got that older generations overlook is that we know how to come together. I know that there's this saying that the Gen Z doesn't come together or something like that, or I don't know. I hear from some people, but I believe we really do come together because we're the first generation you can really say that really looks out for each other. There are still some negative people, of course, that's always going to be worse because I believe our generation is the strongest at being the worst and the best. But I believe looking at the good side of it, we can come together because if there are two talented Gen Z people, they can do it. There's been stories where you may have heard on the internet or maybe in person, you might know of young people in apartments saving money just to live. And they do that. Some of them may pursue their passions together and succeed. And that's where I believe it is, if I answer your question. Don't want to get on a little rant there. I was about to get on a rant.
No, that's all right. That's all right. City has a way of revealing who really stands beside you. How has hardship changed your definition of friendship, community, and professional relationships?
Say that again. I couldn't hear you.
Adversity has a way of revealing who really stands beside you. How has hardship changed your definition of friendship, community, and professional relationships?
It showed me that you have to be strong. And what, for me, it showed me I have to be strong in what I'm doing. I have to not let the best or the worst get to me, but know that it's the results is what happens. It's what I believe what is best because I don't contradict myself. It's what I believe it is best to let the best come through me. Dealing with so much negative people, especially last year that I dealt with personally, I just came to the conclusion that I have zero tolerance for anyone who doesn't want to see success. If they don't want to see success, if they don't want to see growth, I don't want to be bothered with them. That doesn't mean that I am just going to be an idiot and not listen to nobody. I'm still going to listen to what's needed if I need criticism. But if you're a person that's not wanting to develop or grow, or you're just very doubtful, or you're just, in my opinion, not following the right ways of how you should go along with faith too, then there's no need for me to be bothered with you because at the end of the day, you're not trying to grow. You're not trying to improve. And so why do I need to be bothered? Recently I talked to, and I'm gonna make this a story here so I can relate to the audience here. Last year I had this friend who was quote unquote starting off with being friends. And then eventually he started just causing chaos, causing ruckus. We had a chat we started where we all come together, talk about different things. And then the chat got worse and worse. And me and that guy wanted to start a business together. This is a business podcast. We were going to start a business together. And we were going to do an AI app for a Bible app. And he had just said that he wanted to do it, XYZ. We had two other people come in. One guy was just worrying about the money. The other guy was just quiet and sneaky. And then the main guy, Tipo, who I met, he just didn't know what was going on. And he just loved the fact that it was chaotic. And when I gave structure, he didn't like that. And I said that it's better for us to come as a unit and have our skills come together creatively than for there to just be two people working, one person at the bottom, three people working, one person at the bottom. It should be you come together and work. But it's an experience I had to learn at a young age what to know. I thought it had potential, but it didn't. Like I said, the boy who I had, who we were collaborating with, he was worried about the money too. So it was two of them that was worried about money in a way. And eventually I cut him off. When I cut the guy off, the idea of me came to create that children's book. And then a few months later in January, after October 2025, when the idea came, January 2026, I launched this children's book. And so with AI, this was the image, but the work, the writing, the story, the soul of the characters were all me, all written down. Even my children's YouTube channel I have from that book, adapted from that book. it's AI videos, but it's all written by me, scripted. Everything was all through me cooking my brain to figure out what to do because the I only just want that to be what I'm visualizing. I don't ever want it to direct or do nothing I'm doing because it's my work so people can see it's my work through what I've done. And so when you go through hardships, just know this one thing. You see this individual that's not doing right, leave them alone. Test them out first. They're not doing right, leave them alone. Go to a new person and see where you can learn something from it. Because despite all that, I learned something from it. And I learned about discerning certain people. I learned about how to do better in business relationships and how to conduct. If a person's not really ready to conduct, to go through, then there's no need to be bothered with them.
It's there's an old saying, and you take your closest five friends, take them and see the type of person they are, how they act, how they react, and that's really what you are, right? Because if they are your close friends, you can't say, I don't do that, I'm above that, but I like them. Because sooner or later, you're going to fall in with the five. So if you have five friends that are successful and you choose to be successful, you're always fighting to get to that point, you'll be successful. If you have five friends that are they're just sitting around and not doing anything, you're going to lose all your momentum and you're going to sit around and not do anything. So my suggestion would be to make sure that your friends are up there, are they want to be successful. So that's the only thing that I want to say.
That's it.
If someone quietly is battling anxiety, depression, or self doubt, what role can a community and meaningful relationship play moving them forward?
Well, like I always say this, if somebody's dealing with anxiety or something, if you need professional help, go get it. Because I would never tell no one don't get it. Go get it if you need it. But if not, if you just need somebody to talk to, call that trusted friend or that trusted adult. If you're a minor, but if you're an adult, call that trusted adult that you know. And as a teenager, I don't know, young adults who can call that trusted friend as well and talk with them, vent with them if they're trustworthy, and see where they can be to help you out. And if they've been helping you out lately and giving you the right advice on what to do, continue to follow that because that's the best thing. Last night, like I said, once again, that same guy I was telling you about who I talked to, and he was telling me about fake friends and things. I talked about that earlier in this podcast from the beginning. When he talked to me and called me, he called me late at night and he said, I'm sorry for calling you so late. I just wanted to call you because I know that you're very trustworthy. I really trust you, and I know you're a person that won't take me the wrong way or go against me the wrong way. And it goes back to what I said earlier. When you relate to somebody and you talk with them and you get to feel how they feel, they're going to want to trust you more because it's part of psychology. Even in business, we have to practice psychology. And it's not in a bad way, but in a great way because some people can use reverse psychology, the evil type, I guess I'll say. And some people can use the best psychology, the good one. And I guess I'm just using a pun intended. My dose is I'm gonna use the best psychology to help somebody out, to help them improve and be better than what they can be yesterday. And that's the best way on how a person should be if they're facing anxiety. Talk to that trusted individual. I know it's basic, it's generalized, but just do that and know that they're trustworthy. But hopefully, my experience maybe fleshed out something for that individual who is looking for that.
On that same note, and let's bring this podcast full circle. So imagine someone listening today feels disconnected, feels discouraged, or believes that they're facing life alone. What's one truth about relationships that you hope they never forget?
Your legacy. I know that's a big one, but your legacy. Why? Because if you talk to somebody and every time you leave a footprint in their heart, a positive one, they're going to come back. They're going to want more. Because just like when, hopefully I'm using an example, when you print something, pun intended, like when you print something you got to reprint it again if it's losing its color, or if it's something that you always use and you always put on something, you got to redo it. Hopefully, I'm using the right analogy. And that's how it is when it comes to that individual. If you can put a footprint in their lives and their heart, they'll come back. I hope that answers your question.
It absolutely does. But Brendan, this was an enlightening podcast. I think you're well beyond your years. You've written a book and everything else. Listen, if somebody wanted to get hold of you or learn from you, be mentored by you, or even just call you just to say hi, what's the best way for them to get hold of you?
They can get hold of me just like this. You can follow me at Brownstay100, BROWNSTAY 100. That's at Brownstay100 on all socials. If you have Facebook, TikTok, any social media you have, rather if you're young or old, I'm on all of them. The main ones: Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, etc. And my YouTube channel, of course, is at Brownstay100. That's my media company channel. And my email is at brownstone100 at gmail.com if you want to email me there. At brownstone100, no, brownstone100 at gmail.com. And then I know you didn't mention this, but if you want to support my books and what I've done, I have a memoir out that came out last year called Trials and Tribulations and Trauma, a story built through adversity. That's on Amazon. You can just type my name in, Brendan M. Brown, Brendan M. Brown, and it's on there, and you'll find that book. And then, of course, I released my latest, if you're a parent, children's book right here called The Best Yet to Come, which is a story just talking about the little boy who's a man on this image, Matthew, and the little cub, which is a lion named Leo, who is there. Leo, the lion, is there to support to help the boy become strong and encourage him what he needs to do in life. Because many of us as adults, and for our kids who's looking at this, they can be inspired by this to know that, okay, I may be going through things, but I can do it. If Matthew can do it, I can do it. And it can inspire the kids, and even the parents can look at it and be like, wow, it's inspiring. And I adapted a show from it that's exclusively on YouTube as well. And it's there to help inspire the kids too. So if they don't want to read, they can watch the stories. And I do episodes weekly on there every Monday and Friday at 12 p.m. EST. And for those, like I said, the channel is called The Best Is Yet to Come YT channel. And if it's not that, it's Matthew and Leo. And if you can't find it, type both of them together, Matthew and Leo, and type in The Best Yet to Come YT channel and on YouTube, and you'll find the YouTube for the TV show. And then for the book, it's called The Best Yet to Come. Once again, if you look under my name, Brendan Brown, you'll see all my books all together. It will show my memoir, my children's book, and my first two self-help books, which I'm not really mentioning that too much because now in a day and age we live with AI, most information is already out there. So it's best just to show you all stuff that hasn't been made yet, which is my IP, my memoir, my life story. That's something that AI cannot replicate or take. And you can be a part of that story to see where my life is and my work, of course, too, of what I'm doing. And for anyone who's looking at this, I'm actually also planning on releasing a superhero as well too soon through books and adaptations, different things, and that'll be launched very soon. So just stay tuned. And once again, I mentioned everything. You can rewind this episode if you need to listen again about where I'm at and everything. And if you want to support, please support. Thank you.
That's great. And I tell all of my listeners to listen to this very carefully, to follow Brendan because he has so many good ideas. And I think it's very good for children. So today's conversation is a reminder that networking has never been about collecting contacts. It's about finding the people who challenge you, encourage you, tell you the truth when you really need to hear it, and remind you that you don't have to carry life's burden alone. Success is meaningful, but significance comes from the lives we touch along the way. The strongest relationships aren't built because everything is going well. They're built when people show up for one another during the moments that matter most. Here's my challenge for you for the week: reach out to someone, not because you need something, but because they might. A simple conversation, a sincere question, or a genuine check in could become the encouragement someone remembers for years. If you found value in today's episode, make sure you like, follow, and subscribe to Networking Unleashed Building Profitable Connections so you never miss another conversation about networking, communication, leadership, and living with purpose. And if this episode has encouraged you, share it with someone who may need it to reminder that they're not alone. If you're looking for a keynote speaker, executive communication coach, or workshop leader to help you organize, build your strong relationships, communicate with greater impact, and create opportunities through meaningful conversations, visit michaelaforman.com. Until next time, remember this: your greatest connection may not be the person who opens the next door for your career. It may be the person who reminds you who you are when life gets hard. Build relationships with integrity, lead with a compassion, and never underestimate the impact of showing up for someone else. Brendan, thank you so much for coming on my podcast, and I hope to speak with you soon.
Yes, sir. I appreciate everything. Thank you so much.
A wrap, folks. A huge thank you to our guest for sharing such incredible insights today. And of course, a big shout out to you, our amazing listeners, for tuning in and spending your time with us. If you're interested in my digital courses, being coached, or having me come and talk to your company, just go to Michael and fill out the request form. Remember, networking isn't about being perfect, it's about being present. So take what you've learned today, get out there, and make some meaningful connections. If you've enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who could use a little networking inspiration. Let's keep the conversation going. You can find me on Apple, Spotify, Pandora, YouTube, or my website, forman.com/podcasts.